The divorce ended without noise. No raised voices, no shaking hands, no tears sliding down cheeks for sympathy. The room felt tight with silence. He stood tall in a sharp suit, calm and controlled. His face stayed still. His eyes showed no doubt. He signed the papers as if closing a business deal. She stood across from him, hands folded, shoulders steady. Her heart pressed heavy inside her chest, yet her face stayed calm. She had cried enough before this day. She would not beg here. The judge spoke. Words passed. A stamp landed. The marriage ended in minutes. He did not look at her when it was done. He did not hesitate. He did not pause. He turned and walked away with the confidence of a man who believed he had protected his name, his power, his future. She stayed still, not because she felt weak, because she felt emptied. She walked out alone. Her steps stayed slow. Her breath stayed measured. Outside, the world moved as usual. Cars passed. People laughed. Life did not stop for heartbreak. As she reached the sidewalk, she placed a hand against her stomach without knowing why. The motion surprised her. She lowered her hand and kept walking. She did not look back. He walked away calm, confident, certain he had won. He never knew he left a life behind. Some endings feel clean. Some feel unfinished. This one carried a silence that would not stay quiet for long. People assume divorce ends a story. They believe signatures close chapters. They believe silence means acceptance. They believe calm equals strength. They are wrong. Sometimes silence hides damage. Sometimes calm masks fear. Sometimes walking away feels easier than staying and listening. He believed control would protect him. He believed distance would shield his image. He believed certainty meant he was right. He did not ask questions. He did not seek clarity. He trusted his position more than his partner. And she learned a hard truth that day. Love does not survive where pride speaks louder than patience. Trust breaks when power refuses to listen. Silence can punish deeper than anger. This was not a dramatic ending. No shouting followed her down the hallway. No desperate call reached her phone. That quiet choice changed everything. Because when love is treated like a risk instead of a responsibility, something precious is lost. Not all wounds bleed in public. Some settle inside and wait. This story is not about revenge. It is about consequence. It is about how one decision, made too quickly, reshaped more than 2 lives. And it is about how truth waits, even when ignored. Because what he walked away from was not only a woman. He walked away from a future he never paused long enough to see. Welcome back to Lord of Hearts. And if this is your first time here, you are in the right place. This channel exists for stories that feel real. Stories about love tested by choice. Stories about people learning too late that actions leave marks deeper than words. If you have ever trusted someone who chose pride instead of listening, this story speaks to you. If you have ever carried a truth alone because your voice was dismissed, this story sees you. Have you ever been blamed for something you did not do? Have you ever stood in silence while someone decided your future without asking for your side? Have you ever watched someone walk away convinced they were right, only to realize later they never understood what they lost? This is not a story about loud villains or perfect heroes. This is a story about how distance grows when communication fades, about how love breaks when power replaces partnership, about how quiet people carry the heaviest weight. And most of all, this is a story about timing, about how life continues even after doors close, about how truth does not rush, but it does arrive. What began with a calm divorce did not end there. Because sometimes the most important chapter starts after the papers are signed, and sometimes the cost of walking away is far greater than anyone expects. Stay with me, because this story holds a secret no one prepared for. This story exists because of a pattern many people recognize, but rarely confront. When power enters a relationship, listening often leaves. When pride grows, patience shrinks. When silence replaces conversation, love begins to fail. He believed authority gave him clarity. He believed success meant he saw the full picture. He believed walking away fast would keep his world intact. What he did not understand was simple. Love does not survive where questions are ignored. Partnership fades when one voice dominates. Truth suffers when silence becomes a weapon. She did not lose her marriage because she lacked loyalty. She lost it because her words were dismissed before they were heard. And that decision did more than end a relationship. It set something in motion, something quiet, something unseen, something life-changing. Because after the divorce, while he returned to boardrooms and polished meetings, her life moved in a different direction. A direction neither of them planned. A direction no one warned him about. There would be no public announcement, no dramatic reveal, no moment he could prepare for, only a truth waiting in time. A child, regret, a reunion shaped by consequence, not fantasy. And when those paths cross again, nothing will feel simple, because some mistakes do not ask for forgiveness. They demand growth. Before we go any further, pause with me for a moment. If you believe love should protect, not punish, this story is for you. If you believe listening matters more than control, you belong here. If you believe pride destroys what patience could have saved, stay with us. This channel exists for stories that teach, not preach. Stories that remind us choices carry weight. Stories that show how quiet decisions shape loud outcomes. If you want more stories like this, stories filled with heart, lessons and truth, subscribe to Lord of Hearts now. Join a community that values dignity, growth, and love built on respect. And as you watch, ask yourself one question. What would you do if you learned the truth too late? Because this story does not begin with betrayal. It begins with certainty. A man who believed he knew everything. A woman who chose silence over chaos. And a moment that felt final. Chapter 1 begins where certainty felt strongest. On the day the marriage ended, the divorce moved faster than she expected. She had imagined delays, questions, a pause that allowed doubt to enter the room. None came. The judge read the final words in a steady voice. Papers slid across the desk. Pens were offered. Signatures followed. No one raised their voice. No one argued. No one asked for another chance. He stood composed, shoulders squared, expression unreadable. His suit fit perfectly, pressed and deliberate, like everything else about him. He did not fidget. He did not sigh. He did not glance her way. This was not emotional for him. This was procedural. She noticed how easily he handled the moment, how naturally control settled on him. It was the same calm he carried into meetings, negotiations, and public appearances. The same calm that once made her feel safe. Now it felt distant. She stood quietly beside him, hands clasped, breathing measured. Her heart felt heavy, yet she refused to let it show. She had promised herself one thing before walking into that room. She would leave with her dignity intact. The judge asked if either party had anything to add. He said no without hesitation. She paused, only for a second, long enough for a memory to surface, long enough to feel the weight of everything she had swallowed over the past year. Then she said no as well. The stamp hit the page. Final. Clean. The marriage ended in less time than it took to begin. He turned first, not sharply, not coldly, simply with certainty, as if this moment had been decided long before today. He offered a polite nod to the judge, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward the door. He did not look back. She watched him leave, the sound of his footsteps fading down the hallway. Each step felt final. Each one widened the distance between what they were and what they would never be again. She stayed where she was for a breath, longer than necessary, not because she hoped he would return, because she needed to steady herself. When she finally walked outside, the air felt different, brighter, colder. The city moved around her without pause. Traffic flowed. Conversations continued. Life refused to acknowledge her loss. She pulled her coat closer and stepped onto the sidewalk alone. There was no dramatic exit, no whispered apologies, No last-minute regret, only quiet. He returned to his office that afternoon. The divorce did not disrupt his schedule. Meetings remained. Calls followed. Assistants updated him on the day's agenda. To anyone watching, his life looked unchanged. Power had a way of insulating him. He believed silence kept things clean. He believed distance protected his image. He believed control was the same as clarity. What he did not consider was how silence feels on the other side. She took a different route home than usual. She wanted streets that did not remind her of dinners they once shared, of buildings where he had promised forever with steady eyes and confident words. She needed space to think without echoes. Her phone stayed silent. No messages, no questions, no follow-up. That hurt more than if he had argued. Anger would have meant care. Silence meant dismissal. At home, she placed the divorce papers neatly in a drawer. She did not tear them. She did not throw them away. She treated them like something fragile. She sat on the edge of the bed and let the quiet settle. Memories came uninvited. Late nights waiting for him to come home. Conversations cut short by work calls. Apologies offered without change. Promises postponed. She remembered how often she had chosen patience. How often she had stayed quiet to keep peace. How often she had believed love meant understanding without being understood. Her chest tightened. She pressed a hand lightly against her stomach, a small gesture she barely noticed herself making. The movement felt instinctive, grounding, as if her body sought reassurance before her mind could catch up. She lowered her hand quickly. There was no reason for that. Not yet. She stood and walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker on as evening approached. Somewhere in those lights, he was likely already moving on, already confident he had done the right thing. She wondered if he felt relief. She did not feel regret. She felt unfinished. That night, sleep came slowly. Her thoughts circled the same quiet truth. Words left unspoken carry weight. Questions ignored leave marks. Silence does not erase pain. It stores it. He believed ending things quickly would spare them both discomfort. He believed calm decisions were stronger than emotional ones. He did not understand how deeply silence can cut. Because silence does not argue. Silence does not defend itself. Silence waits. And sometimes what waits grows into something no one prepared for. By morning, she would rise, dress, and step into a new chapter of her life. She would carry herself with grace. She would keep moving. But that day, as the marriage ended without noise or struggle, one lesson took root quietly. Silence can hurt more than anger, and some endings only feel complete because the truth has not spoken yet. Before him, her life ran on quiet endurance. She woke before sunrise each day, long before the city felt awake. The apartment was small, the walls thin, the floor cold beneath her feet. She moved softly so she would not wake her younger sister, who slept on the couch in the living room. Responsibility came before comfort. It always had. Work waited. Bills waited. Expectations waited. Her job demanded long hours and offered little grace. She handled tasks meant for two people and smiled through exhaustion because complaining changed nothing. When her phone buzzed, it was rarely good news. A reminder about rent. A call from her sister's school. A notice about utilities. She learned how to stretch a paycheck. How to hide worry behind steady eyes. How to carry stress without letting it show. What weighed on her most was not the money. It was being invisible. At work, her effort passed unnoticed. At home, her strength was expected. Friends drifted away as schedules grew heavy. Conversations shortened. Invitations stopped. She felt unseen in rooms full of people. The night she met him, she was not looking for anything. She had taken an extra shift, helping coordinate a charity dinner. The pay was small, but the experience added to her resume. She wore a simple dress, hair pulled back, shoes chosen for comfort rather than style. She focused on details, seating cards, timing, making sure guests felt welcomed. That focus is what caught his attention. He noticed how she moved through the room with purpose, how she solved problems quietly, how others turned to her when things needed fixing. She did not seek attention. She earned trust. When he spoke to her, it was unexpected, not because of his presence, but because of his tone. He asked her name and waited for the answer. He asked about her role and listened without interrupting. When she mentioned her sister, he remembered. Most people forgot details. He did not. Their first conversation stayed brief, polite, grounded. Yet something shifted. He saw her, and after so long without recognition, that feeling landed deeply. They spoke again near the end of the night, away from noise, away from performance. He asked questions without judgment. She answered carefully, unused to interest without conditions. She did not tell him everything. She did not need to. What mattered was how safe the conversation felt. He did not rush. He did not flirt boldly. He did not press for more. He offered steadiness. When they parted, he said, "You carry a lot." She nodded, surprised by the accuracy. Their next meeting came days later, then weeks. Coffee turned into quiet dinners. Walks replaced loud outings. Their connection grew through shared stillness rather than excitement. With him, she did not need to explain herself. He created space where her thoughts were not dismissed, where her presence was not taken for granted. That space felt like rest. She began to relax around him, to laugh more freely, to speak without rehearsing. He admired her resilience. He spoke of his world with clarity and confidence, never boasting, never apologizing. She admired his certainty, his structure, his ability to make decisions and stand by them. When life felt chaotic, his presence felt grounding. That was when the first red flag appeared, quietly. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, she spoke about her fears, about how hard it felt to carry responsibility alone, about how she sometimes wished someone would simply stand beside her without fixing everything. He listened, then said, "You won't have to struggle like that anymore. I take care of what's important." The words sounded comforting. They were meant to be, but they carried something else too. He spoke of protection, not partnership, of shelter, not shared vulnerability. She noticed the difference, but brushed it aside. After all, being protected felt better than being invisible. As weeks passed, affection grew naturally. He reached for her hand during conversations. She leaned into his shoulder during quiet moments. Their closeness stayed gentle, respectful, unforced. There was romance, but it moved slowly. There was intimacy, but it grew through trust rather than urgency. He never rushed her. She appreciated that. She felt chosen. What she did not see yet was how easily attention can feel like love when you have been unseen for too long. He showed up consistently. He remembered small things. He checked in. He offered solutions before she asked. For someone used to handling everything alone, that support felt profound. She did not realize she was learning to rely on him more than she relied on herself. When he spoke about commitment, it felt natural. When he spoke about a future, it felt reassuring. Stability sounded like love. Certainty felt like care. She did not question the speed because it did not feel reckless. It felt safe. Her sister liked him. Friends approved. Life eased slightly. Bills felt less heavy. Worry loosened its grip. She began to imagine a life where she could finally exhale. Yet beneath that comfort lived a quiet truth. She knew his world operated on control, on precision, on results. She admired it. She did not yet understand its cost. When disagreements surfaced, they ended quickly, not through resolution, but through his calm certainty. He never raised his voice. He never dismissed her openly. He simply decided. She mistook that decisiveness for strength. In moments of doubt, she reminded herself how far she had come, how much better life felt with him in it. Love, she believed, should feel steady. She did not know yet that steadiness without shared voice becomes imbalance. What began as attention slowly shaped expectation. What felt like safety slowly became dependence. She did not see the shift. She only knew she no longer felt invisible. And sometimes, When you have spent too long unseen, being noticed feels like everything. That is the danger. Because attention feels like love when you feel unseen. The relationship did not drift into marriage. It arrived there quickly. There was no long season of uncertainty, no years of gradual blending. The decision came with confidence, framed as practical, sensible, secure. He spoke about timing, about alignment, about how life rarely waits for hesitation. She listened, heart steady, mind hopeful. Stability sounded like a promise. The proposal came without spectacle, no audience, no pressure, just certainty spoken calmly across a quiet table. He told her he valued her presence. He told her he respected her strength. He told her he wanted a future that made sense. She said yes, because it felt safe to stop struggling alone. The wedding followed soon after. Elegant, contained, efficient. Guests praised the pairing. Photos captured smiles and polished details. Everything looked right. What people could not see was how little time existed between choosing commitment and learning what it demanded. Marriage changed the setting overnight. She moved from her small apartment into a house that felt more like a statement than a home. High ceilings, wide halls, rooms filled with expensive furniture chosen for appearance rather than warmth. At first, she walked slowly through each space, touching surfaces, adjusting vases, imagining memories yet to be made. She believed love would fill the rooms with time. He showed her where things belonged, not unkindly, just firmly. Schedules were explained, expectations outlined. The household ran with precision. She admired his structure. What she did not notice yet was how little room remained for spontaneity. He returned late most nights. Work demanded focus. Reputation demanded attention. Calls filled his evenings. Messages interrupted meals. His phone rested closer than she did. She learned how to wait. She waited with dinner kept warm. She waited with conversations half finished. She waited with questions held back. At first, she told herself this was temporary. Big responsibilities required sacrifice. She understood that. She adapted. She filled her days managing the house, attending events at his side, smiling politely in rooms where she felt out of place. She learned names, learned expectations, learned how to stand without speaking too much. People admired her. She's perfect for him, they said. Perfect felt quiet. Perfect felt small. At night, when the house settled, she reached for him. Sometimes he responded. Sometimes he turned away gently, distracted, tired. Affection did not vanish suddenly. It thinned. Their conversations shifted from personal to practical. Schedules replaced stories. Plans replaced dreams. She told herself this was adulthood. This was commitment. She believed patience would bring closeness back. He remained kind, but distant, attentive to outcomes, not emotions. He noticed when things ran smoothly. He commented when something disrupted order. Control mattered to him. Image mattered. Efficiency mattered. Connection slowly slipped to the edges. She found herself rehearsing conversations before speaking, choosing timing carefully, avoiding topics that might feel inconvenient. She did not want to add pressure. That was how loneliness settled in. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. She attended events alone while he stayed back for work. She sat through dinners surrounded by people, yet felt unseen. She smiled for photographs that captured success without warmth. Luxury surrounded her, yet comfort felt distant. The house stayed immaculate. Her heart felt cluttered. Sometimes she remembered their early conversations. The way he once listened closely. The way she once felt safe, sharing fears. She wondered where that space had gone. When she tried to speak about feeling lonely, he responded with solutions. More help at home. A vacation planned months ahead. A reminder of how fortunate they were. He solved problems efficiently. He did not sit with emotions. She began to miss being heard more than being held. Intimacy faded without argument, without explanation, without blame. Nights passed quietly. Mornings arrived early. Days repeated. She waited for a shift that never came. Still, she hoped. Hope kept her gentle. Hope kept her loyal. Hope convinced her patience was love. She adjusted expectations, lowered needs, learned to measure fulfillment differently. If he was calm, she stayed calm. If he was distant, she stayed understanding. She believed marriage meant endurance. He believed marriage meant stability. They did not speak the same language anymore. What looked strong from the outside grew fragile within, because comfort without connection leaves emptiness. And emptiness, when ignored, begins to speak in other ways. Neither of them noticed it yet, but the distance was already there. The first sign did not arrive as a shock. It arrived as a shift, a name mentioned more than once, a presence referenced casually, a connection framed as necessary, harmless, professional. She did not question it at first. His world was filled with long-standing relationships, business ties built over years, people who knew his pace, his standards, his expectations. She had learned not to interrupt that world. Still, she noticed how his tone changed when the name came up. Not softer, not warmer, more precise. The woman was described as capable, reliable, someone who understood how things worked, a past connection, a professional tie, nothing more, he said. At first, she believed him. Trust had become a habit. She had practiced it carefully. Then the comments began. Not accusations, observations. A colleague asked casually how she felt about how often they worked together. A guest at an event made a remark about familiarity that felt too comfortable. Someone laughed and said they made a strong team. She smiled politely and let it pass. Rumors rarely announce themselves boldly. They move quietly, testing reactions. She told herself not to be insecure, not to read meaning into nothing, not to let outside voices disturb her peace. But peace had already grown thin. The signs became harder to ignore. Late nights increased. Messages arrived after midnight. Calls ended abruptly when she entered the room. His attention shifted, not dramatically but consistently. She felt it before she understood it. Something was off. One evening, she found herself alone in the living room, scrolling through her phone without purpose. An image caught her eye. A social post from an industry event she had not attended. He stood beside the woman. The distance between them looked small. She stared longer than she meant to. There was nothing inappropriate in the photo. No touching, no expressions that crossed a line. Yet something about it unsettled her. It was the ease. She brought it up later, carefully, not with accusation, with curiosity. He responded calmly, explained the context, reassured her with logic and facts. She nodded. She accepted the explanation. But doubt had already entered. Doubt grows fast where communication is weak. She began noticing details she once overlooked. How he defended that connection quickly. How questions were answered efficiently, not openly. How reassurance felt brief, as if inconvenient. She tried again to talk. This time, she spoke about her feelings, about how uncertainty made her uneasy, about how distance had already made her vulnerable. He listened without interruption. Then he said, "You're overthinking this." The words landed heavier than expected. Overthinking implied fault. Overthinking dismissed emotion. She pulled back slightly after that. She started keeping thoughts to herself, watching instead of asking, listening more carefully. That was when the evidence appeared, not concrete proof. Fragments, a message seen briefly on his screen, a calendar entry that did not match his explanation, a conversation that ended when she entered the room. None of it proved betrayal. All of it fed doubt. She questioned herself constantly. Was she being unfair? Was she projecting loneliness onto circumstance? Was she letting fear shape reality? She wanted clarity. She did not want conflict. The woman remained present, consistent, embedded in his daily rhythm. When she asked again, he grew firmer. "I've already explained this," he said. His patience felt thin. His tone stayed controlled. That control unsettled her more than anger would have. She tried to explain that trust required transparency, that reassurance needed time, that silence invited worry. He heard none of it. What mattered to him was how things looked, how assumptions could affect his position, how doubt could complicate order. Appearances began to outweigh truth. The gap between them widened. She felt it in small moments. When she stopped sharing details of her day, when she stopped asking him to come home early, when she stopped reaching for comfort. She did not want to be labeled insecure. Meanwhile, stories continued circulating quietly. Someone mentioned seeing them together often. Another hinted at history. Each comment landed like a question she could not ask. Trust does not break all at once. It fractures. She tried one final time to speak openly. They sat across from each other, the room calm, the distance clear. She told him she needed honesty more than reassurance, that she needed him to hear her fear without judging it. He responded with logic. "There is nothing to discuss," he said. "You're letting impressions guide you." Impressions were all she had left, because communication had narrowed to conclusions rather than conversations, because her voice carried less weight than his certainty. From that moment, trust began to crack openly. She did not accuse him of betrayal. She accused him of distance. He responded by withdrawing further. Silence returned, heavier than before. The woman's presence remained, steady, accepted. Her questions stayed unanswered, and the doubt grew, because when communication weakens, imagination fills the space. And when truth is filtered through control, trust cannot survive intact. She felt the shift clearly now. Something had changed, and it would not return to what it once was. The confrontation did not begin with shouting. It began with certainty. She waited until the house was quiet, until the evening settled, until there were no calls scheduled, no meetings to rush to, no audience to impress. When he entered the living room, she was already there, sitting upright, hands steady, face calm. He noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked. She did not answer right away. She took a breath. She chose her words with care, not fear. "I need to talk," she said, "and I need you to listen." He nodded once and sat across from her. His posture remained composed, his expression neutral. He looked prepared, not open. She began without accusation. "I feel pushed out of your life," she said. "I feel dismissed when I ask questions. I feel like there's something you're choosing not to see." His jaw tightened slightly. She continued, "There is someone else involved in your world more than you admit, and it's affecting us." There it was, the direct line neither of them had spoken aloud. He did not raise his voice. He did not interrupt. He leaned back slightly, arms crossing, eyes focused. "You're accusing me of something," he said. "I'm telling you how this feels," she replied. "I'm asking for honesty." She explained what she had noticed: the late nights, the silence, the fragments that did not align, the way her concerns had been brushed aside. Her tone stayed calm, controlled. She did not cry. She did not plead. She spoke like someone protecting her dignity. "I have not betrayed you," she said clearly. "And I need you to trust me enough to hear that." He responded with distance. "This is speculation," he said, "and speculation damages credibility." The word landed sharply. Credibility, not marriage, not trust. She felt the shift then, the moment where the conversation stopped being about them. She tried again. "I'm not asking you to choose sides," she said. "I'm asking you to choose us." His eyes hardened. "There is no issue," he said. "You're letting assumptions guide you." Her chest tightened. Assumptions. That word erased her experience, reduced her concern to a flaw. She remained calm. "I know what I feel," she said, "and I know when something changes. I'm asking you to meet me halfway." He stood. The movement was deliberate, controlled. "I don't have time for this," he said. "This is unnecessary conflict. Unnecessary." The word cut deeper than anger would have. She stood as well, meeting his height, not his distance. "This is our marriage," she said. "Nothing about it is unnecessary." For the first time that night, he showed frustration. "I can't risk my reputation," he said. "I can't allow doubt to interfere with everything I've built." There it was. Pride stepped fully into the room. She looked at him and understood something painful. He was not afraid of losing her. He was afraid of losing control. She felt shock, not because of what he said, but because of how clearly he said it. "Then, what about me?" she asked quietly. He did not answer. Silence returned, thick and final. She realized then that he had already chosen. The conversation did not soften him. Her calm did not reach him. Her truth did not move him. He had decided long before this moment. "I think we should end this," he said. The words arrived abruptly, no warning, no pause. Her breath caught. End this. No counseling, no reflection, no attempt to repair. She felt the floor shift beneath her certainty. "Is that really your answer?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "This has gone too far." She nodded slowly. Shock settled in, heavy and cold. She had prepared herself for denial, for argument, even for anger. She had not prepared herself for dismissal. She did not beg. She did not ask for another chance. She straightened her shoulders and held his gaze. "If you walk away like this," she said, "you will never know what you destroyed." He looked away. The decision moved fast after that. Papers drawn, arrangements discussed, logistics handled with efficiency. He treated the end of their marriage like a conclusion he could manage. She felt detached, as if watching her life from a distance. The night ended without reconciliation, without comfort, without closure. She packed a small bag and moved to the guest room. Sleep did not come. Her thoughts stayed sharp. Her heart stayed stunned. In the days that followed, everything accelerated. Lawyers, documents, timelines, no space to breathe. He remained calm throughout, focused, certain. She remained quiet, not because she had nothing to say, because she refused to lose herself in the process. The divorce was decided suddenly, but its impact settled slowly. When the final papers were prepared, she read them carefully. She did not skim. She did not rush. This was her life. She would not treat it lightly. On the morning she signed, she felt numb, not broken. Numb. As she placed the pen down, she asked herself one question. How did love become something so fragile? And she understood the answer clearly. Because pride was chosen over truth. Because control was valued more than connection. Because listening stopped when certainty took over. Before the next chapter begins, pause here. Ask yourself this: should love fight harder than pride? Because when ego wins, the cost reaches far beyond reputation. It reaches hearts, it reaches futures, and sometimes it reaches lives no one saw coming. She left quietly, no announcement, no dramatic exit, no attempt to be remembered. On the morning she moved out, the house was still. Her footsteps echoed softly as she walked through rooms that never truly felt like hers. She packed only what mattered: clothes, documents, a few personal items that carried meaning rather than value. She paused once in the doorway of the bedroom, not to mourn it, to acknowledge it. Then she closed the door and walked away. Outside, the air felt lighter, colder, honest. She did not cry in the car. Tears had already passed their season. What remained was something harder to name: numbness. Days blended together after that. She settled into a smaller place with fewer rooms and fewer expectations. The silence there felt different, not heavy, not accusing, neutral. She arranged furniture slowly. She cooked simple meals. She slept without waiting for footsteps in the hallway. Life became quieter, but also unfamiliar. Without him, there was no schedule to follow but her own. No image to maintain, no conversations to rehearse. Freedom came with uncertainty. Some mornings she woke with purpose. Other mornings she stayed in bed longer than planned, staring at the ceiling, unsure what she was supposed to feel. Grief did not arrive loudly. It moved through her in waves. She missed the idea of marriage more than the reality of it. She missed who she believed she was becoming. She missed the version of herself that still hoped patience would be enough. But she did not miss the waiting. That realization surprised her. Her body reacted before her mind could understand. Fatigue followed her everywhere. Tasks that once felt easy now required effort. She lost interest in food, then felt hungry at odd hours. Her sleep shifted. Some nights she slept too much. Others, not at all. She told herself it was stress. Divorce demanded adjustment. Everyone said so. Still, something felt off. She brushed it aside. She focused on rebuilding, on returning to routines that belonged to her, on checking in with her sister, on proving, mostly to herself, that she could stand alone. Emotionally, she stayed distant. Friends asked how she was doing. She answered politely, honestly, but briefly. "I'm fine," she said. Fine became a shield. Inside, she felt suspended between what had ended and what had not yet begun. There were moments when memories surfaced unexpectedly, a phrase he once used, a habit she picked up during their time together, the sound of his voice in a quiet room. She let those moments pass without resistance. She did not want bitterness to take root. Some evenings she sat by the window and watched the city settle, lights turning on, people returning home, life continuing in its ordinary rhythm. She wondered how easily he had returned to his own. The thought no longer brought anger. It brought distance. Her body continued sending signals she did not fully recognize. Nausea in the mornings, a heaviness that lingered longer than expected, sensitivity to smells, sudden exhaustion. She told herself she needed rest. She took days off work. She drank more water. She adjusted her diet. She tried to regain balance. Uncertainty stayed. One afternoon, while standing in line at a pharmacy, she felt dizzy. She gripped the counter until the feeling passed. The clerk asked if she was okay. She nodded. At home later, she sat quietly and let the moment replay in her mind. This time, she did not dismiss it. Her body was asking for attention. Fear did not rush in. Curiosity did. She thought back over the past weeks, the timing, the changes, the quiet signs she had ignored. A question formed. She did not answer it yet. Instead, she sat with it. Emotionally, she remained guarded. She did not rush to redefine herself. She did not search for meaning immediately. She allowed space, space to feel lost, space to feel unsure, space to not have answers. In that space, something shifted. She noticed strength returning in small ways, the confidence to make decisions without seeking approval, the relief of not having to measure her words. She began to trust her instincts again. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing clearly. She would not return to a life where her voice carried no weight. As the days passed, she understood a truth that settled gently without force. Endings are not always final. Some are pauses. Some are transitions. Some carry beginnings hidden beneath the weight of loss. She did not know yet what awaited her, but she sensed that the story was not finished. And for the first time since the divorce, that uncertainty did not feel frightening. It felt possible. The confirmation arrived quietly. No dramatic moment, no music swelling in the background, no rush of certainty. She stood alone in the bathroom, the door closed, the light soft. The test rested on the counter between her hands as if waiting for permission to speak. She had delayed this step longer than she should have, not out of fear, out of uncertainty. The symptoms had continued. Morning nausea that did not behave like stress. Fatigue that sleep did not fix. A strange sensitivity to smells that once meant nothing to her. Her body had been consistent. Her mind had resisted. When the result appeared, clear and undeniable, her breath caught. She sat down slowly, back against the door, eyes fixed on the small plastic window. Pregnant. The word felt unreal. Heavy. Life-altering. Her first instinct was disbelief. She counted days in her head, weeks, moments she had pushed aside, the final weeks of the marriage, the night that had felt fragile but hopeful. The timing aligned with painful precision. Understanding settled in. This was real. Her hand moved to her stomach again, this time without hesitation. The gesture felt protective, instinctive, ancient. A life had begun without asking permission from chaos. Emotions surged in layers. Shock came first, then fear, then something softer, wonder. She did not cry right away. She stayed still, letting the truth settle into her body before her thoughts could catch up. This changed everything. Her first thought was not about him. It was about responsibility. Her second thought arrived quickly after. Should she tell him? The question lingered, heavy and complex. She imagined his reaction, the disbelief, the questions framed as accusations, the scrutiny of timelines, the risk of this truth being pulled into conflict rather than care. She imagined lawyers, conversations filtered through caution, control reasserting itself. She felt her chest tighten. This was not the space she wanted for this truth. She stood and paced the small bathroom, grounding herself in motion. She reminded herself to breathe, to stay present. Pregnancy demanded calm. Peace mattered now. She sat again and let clarity arrive slowly. She did not owe him immediate access to this moment. Not after silence had been chosen over conversation. Not after dismissal had replaced trust. This truth was not a weapon. It was a life, and life deserved protection. That did not mean she would hide forever. It meant she would choose timing carefully. She scheduled a doctor's appointment quietly. She told no one yet. She needed confirmation beyond the test, reassurance beyond instinct. The appointment confirmed what she already knew. She listened as the doctor spoke about early stages, about care, about next steps. She nodded, absorbing information, adjusting internally. When she left the clinic, the world felt sharper, colors brighter, sounds clearer. Life had shifted. She walked slowly, one hand resting lightly against her stomach, the other holding her bag close. For the first time since the divorce, she felt anchored to the present. The emotional conflict followed her home. Joy battled fear. Hope collided with memory. She wondered if this child would look like him. She wondered if silence would protect or isolate. She wondered how much strength motherhood would demand. She reminded herself of one truth. She had survived worse uncertainty than this. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her own breathing. Her body felt different already, more purposeful, more aware. She spoke quietly into the darkness. "I will protect you." The promise felt steady. Days passed. She adjusted her routine. She rested more, ate carefully, paid attention to her body. She did not call him. Each time the thought surfaced, she measured it against her sense of peace. Peace won. This chapter of her life did not need confrontation. It needed care. She understood something important during those days. Truth is powerful, but timing shapes its impact. Not every truth needs immediate exposure. Some need space to grow safely before facing the world. She chose discretion, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She chose calm over reaction, protection over impulse. The secret did not feel like a burden. It felt like a responsibility she accepted fully. Whatever came next, she would meet it with intention. And for the first time since the marriage ended, she felt certain of one thing. She was no longer alone. Pregnancy changed her rhythm long before it showed. Her body slowed first. Mornings felt heavier. Tasks took more energy than before. She learned how to listen to signs she once ignored. Rest became necessary, not optional. She adjusted quietly. She reorganized her days around doctor visits and shorter work hours. She kept the pregnancy private, sharing only with her sister once she felt steady enough to speak the words aloud. The reaction was simple: shock, then support. "You're not alone," her sister said. That sentence carried her through many hard days. Financial pressure arrived early. Medical appointments cost more than expected. Her savings shrank faster than planned. She reviewed budgets carefully, trimming anything unnecessary. No extras, no indulgence, only what mattered. Fear tried to surface. She did not let it stay. She reminded herself of everything she had already survived, the long years of responsibility, the quiet endurance, the strength built before marriage ever entered her life. This was not the first time she had stood alone. Emotionally, pregnancy softened her and sharpened her at the same time. She felt protective, focused, certain. She no longer measured herself by what she had lost. She measured herself by what she was building. As months passed, her body changed visibly. Strangers smiled at her. Some asked questions she answered politely without offering details. She kept her life contained. She did not think of him often. When she did, the thought carried distance, not pain. She refused bitterness. Bitterness would drain energy she needed for growth. Late at night, she spoke softly to her growing child. She talked about safety, about kindness, about strength that did not rely on control. She promised consistency. She promised presence. The birth came quietly, without drama. Labor was long and exhausting, but she stayed steady. She focused on breathing, on endurance, on the reason behind the pain. When the child arrived, the room felt different. Time slowed. She held the small body against her chest, warmth settling into her bones. The baby cried, then calmed. Tiny fingers curled instinctively. Her heart shifted permanently. In that moment, she did not feel abandoned. She felt powerful. The resemblance appeared immediately. The shape of the eyes, the curve of the nose, the expression at rest. Nurses commented gently. "Looks like someone you know," one said with a smile. She nodded and said nothing. She named the child carefully, choosing something meaningful, something strong, something separate from the past yet honest. Motherhood reshaped her days completely. Sleep came in fragments. Time revolved around feedings, diaper changes, and quiet moments watching her child breathe. Exhaustion tested her. Still, she did not resent it. Responsibility anchored her. She learned new patience, new resolve, new confidence. When money felt tight, she found solutions. When energy dipped, she adapted. When doubt whispered, she answered it with action. She returned to work gradually, balancing schedules with care. She found support programs. She asked for help when needed without shame. As her child grew, the resemblance deepened. People noticed more openly now. "He looks just like his father," someone remarked once at a park. She smiled politely and changed the subject. She did not deny the truth. She simply did not explain it. She chose peace over correction. Raising her child alone was not easy. There were nights she cried quietly after putting the baby to sleep. There were mornings she wondered if she was enough. Each time, she reminded herself why she chose this path. Her child would grow up knowing stability, not tension. Presence, not uncertainty. Love that listened. She did not romanticize struggle. She respected it. Strength did not come from comfort. It came from responsibility met daily. As years passed, she became more grounded, more assured. Her identity shifted from survivor to builder. She no longer waited for validation. Her child laughed easily, trusted deeply, reached for her without hesitation. That trust mattered. She taught boundaries gently, respect consistently, honesty without fear. She did not speak badly about the past. She believed children should not carry weight they did not create. Some days, she wondered if the truth would surface on its own. She did not rush it. Life had its own timing. She focused on being present, on providing security, on growing alongside her child. She chose forgiveness quietly, not for him, but for herself. Forgiveness freed her from carrying anger forward. Responsibility shaped her character faster than comfort ever could. She stood taller now, spoke clearer, lived intentionally. The life she built did not include luxury, but it included purpose. And purpose-filled spaces comfort never reached. Whatever came next, she knew she could face it. She already had. His life moved forward the way it always had. Clean lines, full calendar, predictable outcomes. After the divorce, he did not pause. He returned to work with renewed intensity, as if speed could quiet reflection. Meetings filled his days. Travel filled his nights. Familiar routines restored order. From the outside, nothing looked broken. Inside, something shifted slowly. The relationship that followed felt easy at first, comfortable, understood by his circle. No questions asked, no explanations required. Yet ease did not equal closeness. Conversations stayed shallow. Evenings felt empty despite company. Silence returned, this time louder. He noticed it late at night, when distractions faded, when the room settled, when there was no one to impress. Emptiness arrived without warning. He dismissed it at first, told himself adjustment took time, told himself clarity required focus. But clarity did not come. The relationship failed quietly. No drama, no confrontation, just a gradual acknowledgement that something essential was missing. He ended it without resistance. After that, nights grew longer. He began replaying moments he once dismissed. The way she spoke carefully, the calm she maintained under pressure, the patience he mistook for acceptance. He thought of the night she asked him to listen. He realized he never truly had. Regret does not announce itself boldly. It settles. He noticed it when he reached for his phone and stopped, when he walked into rooms that felt colder than before, when success felt routine instead of rewarding. Achievements continued. Applause followed. Respect remained. Fulfillment did not. Then the truth surfaced indirectly. A passing conversation at an industry event. A familiar name mentioned casually. A comment about seeing her recently. She has a child now, someone said. Beautiful kid. The words lodged in his chest. A child. He asked questions without revealing interest, kept his tone neutral, listened carefully. The timing mentioned next made his breath slow. His mind began working through dates with precision he could not stop. The final weeks of the marriage, the silence after, the months that followed. Understanding arrived like a weight. The timeline clicked. He felt it before he accepted it. That child could be his. He stood still long after the conversation ended, noise passing around him unnoticed. His world narrowed to one possibility. Regret sharpened into clarity. He thought back to the day he walked away, to how certain he felt, to how easily he dismissed her words. He understood something painful. Certainty had blinded him. He searched quietly at first. Public records, mutual contacts, places she once frequented. He did not want spectacle. He wanted truth. Each step toward it felt heavy. He saw a photo days later, not shared with him, shared without awareness of his eyes. A small child stood beside her, hair familiar, eyes unmistakable. His chest tightened. The resemblance was undeniable. There was no anger in what he felt, no desire to reclaim control, only realization he had been wrong. He remembered her calm during the confrontation, her steady voice, her refusal to fight loudly. He had mistaken dignity for weakness. Now, he understood its strength. The search continued, slower now, more careful. He did not want to disrupt the life she had built. He did not know if he had the right. Questions crowded his thoughts. Had she struggled alone? Had she found peace without him? Had he forfeited the chance to be present? He imagined the child's laughter, first steps, first words, moments he had missed. Success felt hollow in comparison. He began revisiting choices he once defended without reflection. The control he prized, the pride he protected, the silence he used as a shield. Each one carried cost. He realized that love required humility, not certainty. That listening mattered more than winning. That walking away fast did not equal strength. It equaled avoidance. He prepared himself for the possibility that she would not welcome him back. That forgiveness was not owed. That access to that child was not guaranteed. Regret did not make demands. It asked questions. He asked himself the hardest one late one night, sitting alone in a room filled with success but empty of warmth. What if being right cost him everything that mattered? He did not rush toward her. He respected distance, but he did not turn away. Because regret, when honest, changes direction. Before the next chapter unfolds, pause here. Ask yourself this. Do you believe regret changes people? Because success without love feels hollow. And sometimes, understanding arrives only after silence has taken everything it can. The meeting happened by chance. No warning, no preparation, no moment to rehearse reactions. He stepped into a small bookstore on a quiet afternoon, drawn there by habit more than intention. He had learned to seek quieter spaces lately, places where his thoughts could move without interruption. He did not expect to see her. She stood near the children's section, crouched slightly, holding a small book open in her hands. A child sat beside her on the floor, legs folded awkwardly, eyes fixed on the pages, as if the story mattered deeply. He froze, not from shock, from recognition. Time slowed in a way he could not control. Her posture was different now, more grounded, more assured. She looked calm, focused, present. There was no trace of the woman who once waited endlessly in quiet rooms. And then the child looked up. Their eyes met for a brief second. The resemblance struck him with undeniable clarity. The shape of the face, the familiar gaze, the expression at rest. His chest tightened. His breath caught. His certainty returned, not as confidence, but as truth. That child was his. She noticed him then. Her eyes met his without surprise, as if some part of her had always known this moment would come. She did not flinch. She did not rush. She closed the book gently and stood, placing herself naturally between him and the child. Not defensively, protectively. "Hello," she said. Her voice was steady. He managed a nod. Words did not come easily. They stood in silence for a moment that felt heavy yet contained. No one around them noticed. Life continued in soft motion. The child tugged lightly at her hand. "Mom," the child said, pointing toward another shelf. She knelt again, answered calmly, and helped choose a book. The routine felt practiced, secure. He watched quietly. There was no anger rising in him, no urge to interrupt, only understanding. When she straightened, she met his gaze again. "You look well," she said. "So do you," he replied, voice controlled. Neither of them mentioned the obvious. They did not need to. He did not ask questions. She did not offer explanations. Truth did not need volume to be powerful. They moved to a quieter corner near the window. The child sat nearby, focused on turning pages, content. "I didn't plan this," he said softly. "I know," she replied. Her tone carried no accusation. "I wasn't sure if you knew," he continued. She nodded once. "I assumed you would figure it out eventually." He swallowed. The admission landed heavily. "You chose not to tell me," he said, not as blame, but as fact. "Yes," she answered. "I chose peace." He absorbed that. He looked at the child again, taking in every detail. The way small fingers held the book. The familiar curve of the smile. Emotion pressed against his restraint. He did not reach out. He respected the boundary she held without words. "I was wrong," he said quietly. She listened. "I thought certainty made me strong," he continued. "I thought control protected everything I built." She said nothing, allowing him space to finish. "I didn't listen," he added, "and I lost more than I understood at the time." She studied him for a moment. "I didn't raise a child on bitterness," she said calmly. "I raised a child on stability." He nodded. "I can see that." The child looked up again, sensing attention, eyes curious. She smiled down gently. "This is someone I used to know," she said simply. The child nodded and returned to the book, satisfied. The moment passed without tension. "I won't disrupt your life," he said. I won't demand anything. She met his gaze. That matters, she said. Because this life wasn't built to be taken apart. He accepted that. I want to do this the right way, he said. If that's possible. She considered his words carefully. This isn't about what you want, she said. It's about consistency, respect, time. I understand, he replied. And for the first time, he truly did. They spoke briefly about practical things. Neutral ground, schedules, boundaries, no promises, no assumptions. She kept her tone calm, firm, clear. He listened without interrupting. When it was time to leave, she gathered the books and took the child's hand. They paused at the door. This doesn't change overnight, she said. I know, he replied. And trust isn't rebuilt by words, she added. I know, he said again. She nodded once. That was enough. As she walked away, he did not follow. He stood still, letting the weight of the moment settle. Truth had arrived without drama, and it changed everything, because truth does not need volume to be powerful. It only needs to be honored. Forgiveness did not arrive as a single moment. It arrived as a process. After the reunion, he did not push. He did not demand time or answers. He respected the space she set and followed the boundaries she outlined with steady action rather than promises. Weeks passed. He showed up when invited. He stayed consistent. He asked questions and waited for answers. He listened without correcting. When uncertainty surfaced, he did not rush to resolve it. That patience marked the first real change. One afternoon, as they sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, he spoke carefully. I want to say this without pressure, he said. I am sorry, not for the outcome alone, but for how I treated your voice. She did not respond immediately. She had learned the value of silence too. I believed control would keep everything stable, he continued. I believed certainty meant I was right. I was wrong. His apology did not include excuses. It did not ask for immediate relief. That mattered. She nodded once. I hear you, she said, but healing doesn't move on your schedule. I know, he replied. I'm willing to wait. She believed him, not because of his words, but because of his behavior since the reunion. The child came first in every conversation, always. He understood that without question. He did not arrive with gifts or grand gestures. He arrived with presence. He learned routines. He respected rules. He allowed the child to approach him naturally. Trust, she believed, grew best without pressure. Some days progress felt visible. Other days, distance returned quietly. She did not hide those moments. She named them. He listened. They spoke openly about the past, but without reopening wounds unnecessarily. She explained how loneliness had settled in during the marriage, how waiting had become routine, how dismissal had reshaped her confidence. He accepted those truths without defense. That acceptance mattered more than regret ever could. She did not rush forgiveness. Forgiveness without understanding felt hollow. She wanted to see humility in motion. And she did. He adjusted expectations. He followed through on small commitments. He showed restraint when emotion rose. Slowly, trust found room to breathe. Their connection changed shape. It was no longer about reclaiming what was lost. It was about building something different, something steadier. She remained clear. This is not about returning to what we had, she said one evening. That version of us no longer exists. I don't want that version, he replied. I want to be better than that. She believed growth showed itself over time, not declarations. Love, she realized, needed patience more than passion. Their conversations became easier, less guarded, more honest. He learned to ask how she felt and wait. She learned to share without fear of dismissal. The child observed everything quietly. Children notice patterns adults overlook. Consistency mattered. As months passed, the child grew more comfortable. Laughter replaced curiosity. Trust replaced caution. She watched carefully. She protected fiercely. When she felt doubt, she voiced it. When reassurance arrived through action, she acknowledged it. Healing did not erase memory. It softened its hold. One evening, as they walked slowly through a park, he stopped to see her. "I know forgiveness isn't guaranteed," he said, "and I know love doesn't reset easily. I'm here because I choose humility over certainty now." She studied his face. "You chose pride once," she said, "and it cost more than you expected." "I know," he replied. "I won't choose it again." She did not promise anything. Promises had lost meaning long ago. Instead, she offered clarity. "This only works if patience leads," she said. "If respect stays steady. If our child never feels second to ego." He nodded. "That's how it should be." They continued walking. The future did not appear as a perfect picture. It appeared as possibility shaped by effort. That felt honest. Love, she learned, was not loud. It was careful. It paid attention, and humility made room for it. As the story settles, pause and reflect. Power without listening damages connection. Certainty without humility breaks trust. Silence used as control wounds deeper than anger. Love needs humility. Pride destroys faster than betrayal. If this story moved you, share your biggest lesson in the comments below. Your voice matters here. And if you want more stories that explore love, growth, and the choices that shape our lives, subscribe to Lord of Hearts. This channel exists for stories that remind us how much listening matters. Because some endings are not failures, they are beginnings shaped by wiser hearts.